Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the Law of Attraction Club Hangout on Air. I'm Rachel of the Law of Attraction Club, and this is, you've joined us on Saturdays with Tara. On Saturdays, we have Robin, who is channeling Tara for us. On Tuesdays, Mary Beth, and on Thursdays, I do the channeling. We welcome everyone to this Hangout on Air, and those who are members are welcome to join us on our conference line, which will continue after this Hangout on Air. For those who are watching the recording after the live conference, you will see pop-ups on your screen, which will give you more information about the Law of Attraction Club, and we would love to have you join us for future calls. So this Hangout on Air is the summary of our theme for the week. And as I said earlier, our longer discussion continues each week on our member conference line immediately following this Hangout on Air. For more information, again, click your links. And for those, again, watching the recording, you can click those pop-ups, which will get you to more information about us. So, I will be handing this over to Robin and Tara to introduce the theme of the week. So, over to you, Robin and Tara.
Welcome. One of the things we don't often talk about as an absolute fact of your existence is change. And yet in the ebb and flow of energy that appears as the world around you, change is the only constant. Some of you try very hard at times to find and maintain a world of stability, to keep things rolling along in an okay state. But stuff happens. Some of that stuff is more to your liking than other stuff. And so your desires get stimulated. You want to create more joyful experiences and less not so joyful experiences. And that is the desire that brings us all together in these intersections. As we get into this topic, we want you to remember that you are creating this experience in your world. Think about it. How confident are you that you will find this particular discussion to be helpful or inspiring to you? Because your expectations, as always, rule the day. We can wax eloquent, and we think we do a pretty good job of that. But it's your belief and your confidence that determines what your experience will be. So we encourage you to take a little pause here, right now, and simply choose to be enlightened and encouraged. Always choose what you want. Choose it now. Good. Let's begin. Who you are, the power you have, and how you exercise that power is, of course, at its essence, a very simple story. And yet, immersed and engrossed as you are in your space-time world, as we get exuberantly into the detail of the questions you bring to us, it often takes us many words and many minutes or hours or days to explore with you the ways in which you can change your world and your life. And so here we are at it once again, in your space-time terminology, in week 15 of our new series of discussions. And this week we want to go back over some of our best tips and law of attraction techniques. Our goal here is to expand your understanding of the way your thoughts control your world, so that as you become more aware of those thoughts, you become more expert at creating a world around you that lines up with what you want. So let's first understand the mechanics of this, and then we'll revisit some of your popular processes and see what's actually going on when you practice these techniques. And by you here, we're talking about the thinking, conscious you that it has made and continues to make all the decisions. As always, we'll start by talking fundamentally about the process of change. Here are some different ways of describing it. Bringing more joy into your life is a process of following your heart and getting into alignment with your now desires. Changing your life means making a new choice and lining up with it. Abraham words. Changing your life means telling a new story in place of that old story you wrote about how everything works. Changing your life means changing your blueprint, that complex map of expectations which sits back there in what we loosely call the subconscious you. Changing your life means reprogramming your autopilot and implanting some new rules about the way things work. We have all these various ways of describing it. Your blueprint, your tapestry of expectations, your story, your autopilot mind, and we say you can think of it as subconscious you. But here's what's important about it. 5 things. 1, you alone made choices and created it. It's not a committee decision. It's not a co-creation. 2, you can always know consciously what's in it. Just go within and be honest with yourself. 3, there's nothing in it that's unchangeable. 4, you alone can change it. Once again, it's not a committee decision. 5, it alone creates your world second by second. What you don't know doesn't exist. Next, we're going to repeat here what we often repeat about the law of attraction. And we want you to hear these words and really think about your reaction to them. You can have, be, or do anything. There's nothing you cannot change. Creating a galaxy is as simple as creating a hot meal. We've used these words many times before, but what was your reaction this time? You might sort of believe it, but internally water it down to something like being positive is a generally good idea. And in that case, you're missing the point. Or you might believe it theoretically, but you harbor doubts about your ability to personally change things. If this is you, then stick with us here and let's see if together we can shift some of that for you. You chose at a very fundamental level the very shape of you, your consciousness, mostly perhaps focused down into one thought at a time. You chose how that conscious you interacts with what we loosely call your subconscious. But let's come back to that in more detail shortly. You chose the illusion of physicalness with a preferred backstory, what you call your past. Perhaps being born a human on a certain day and time of certain parents in a certain country on a 4 billion year old Earth rotating around a sun in a 13 billion year old galaxy among many galaxies. You chose your non-physical world, perhaps with other entities, some similar to you and some like us. You chose and are choosing and will choose. Choice is an absolute and fundamental part of what you do. Now let's look at that autopilot you've created, the subconscious you, where you, just you and nobody else, have stored the beliefs and expectations that define everything about you and the context around you. Changing your subconscious is an inherent part of creating something new. In this subconscious resides all the choices about the physical you, your world, and that so-called past of yours that seems so important in determining who and where you are. The choices about how you do things, how you connect things, and how you react to different things. So let's look at one version of that past as one possible explanation of the way you program that autopilot. As a baby learning to walk, you tried a few things a few thousand times and learned to balance on two legs. You tried a few steps a few hundred times and eventually you learned to walk. You stored all that away, and unless you consciously choose to intervene for some reason, like playing hopscotch for example, you never think about where to place your feet again. You taught your subconscious to handle it, and it does. Similarly, you learned to talk, by which we mean you consciously learned and then taught your subconscious how to do it. Now when you speak, you choose a block of thought and your autopilot chooses the words and speaks them. And by the way, sometimes as you react, your autopilot also chooses the thought. You taught it how your world is. When you woke up this morning, there it was. The bed, the floor, the walls, time, and gravity. It was there without conscious thought, without energy, focus, or attention, because you knew it would be. Your subconscious provided the design, and the law of attraction provided the content. Context, the illusion you call the world. Now consider going on a roller coaster ride. If you thought there was any real danger, you wouldn't go on it. But your logical, conscious mind says, this is safe. And yet when you reach the apex and dive into what seems like free fall, your subconscious is screaming danger at you. Without that, once again, you wouldn't go on it because there would be no thrill. Think about that. You know it's a lie, and in this case, the fun comes from challenging that lie. What would happen, do you think, if you were forced to ride it for an hour every day? You would be training your autopilot that there is no danger here. Once that habit of thought takes over, the ride becomes boring. Now consider climbing a hill with a slope on one side and a cliff on the other. Your autopilot handles climbing up the slope. It knows what to do and it sees no problem. Then say you stand at the top of the cliff and you recall our words that you can do anything. You can fly. It's as simple to successfully fly off the cliff as it is to go back down the way you came up, and it could be a lot more fun. Your autopilot is, of course, saying, danger. What is your conscious mind saying? Well, if you haven't yet reached the point of certainty about flying, it's probably saying, not at this time. And we would agree with that. We are not proponents of jump and the parachute will appear. How then do you teach your subconscious a new habit of thought when you can't safely practice the new way of doing things? And now we have arrived at the point of all of this. Since it's all an illusion anyway, can you see that it's your thoughts that created that current set of habits you've stored back there? New thoughts can create new habits. An imagined experience without reservation, with eager anticipation, is every bit as powerful as a so-called real experience in planting new ideas about what's possible. As with the roller coaster, it may take a few repetitions to overwrite the old story. What we are on about here is retraining that immensely powerful subconscious that makes most of your decisions and handles most of your physical actions to be in alignment with where you want it to be. As with the roller coaster, it has no independent ability to really decide what is logical and sensible. When it is screaming danger, it is not by definition signaling danger. It is simply reacting in the way that you have previously taught it to react. It may feel like it is telling you of danger, but it cannot do that. Recognize here and now and take a stand with that subconscious of yours. It's just the old program that you put there. So now let's get to the reprogramming. What are the key ingredients here? 1. Releasing. Mentally loosening your grip on that fake reality. Letting the old story go and letting your new story be your true story. 2. Awareness of your feelings. Developing an ever-present sense of how you feel. 3. Willingness. Choosing to intervene as you start heading downhill. Choosing to give this new vision the focus it deserves. 4. Awareness of who you are. Maintaining perspective. Always seeing the view from the stands even as you play on the field. 5. Practicing. Choosing the processes that help. Adapting them, using them. Any process that gets you away from business as usual, day to day, month to month thinking can help. Here are our favorites. Number 1, letting go, a 5-step process. 2, meditation, which comes in many shapes. 3, appreciation rampages. 4, channeling, something all of you can do. 5, reinventing your past. And 6, finding like minds. Let's look at these in a little more detail. 1, letting go, a 5-step process. Whenever you feel bad, face the feeling. Welcome it in. Then step back from it. See it for the lie that it is. Then simply let it go. Let it float away. Kick it in the butt. Whatever works. Then pat yourself on the back. This is the work. Acknowledge yourself. Then step into the being place of the world without that lie. 2. Meditation, which comes in many shapes. Any and all of them are useful. You can seek no thought, which is to find the gap between thoughts and allow that to expand. It's to simply be at peace. And if distractions come, just let them go. 3. Appreciation rampages. Find 100 things in your worlds which you can exuberantly appreciate. Simple things, complex things, big things, little things, important things, and mundane things. Appreciation is a fail-safe way to get to feeling good, and nothing is more important than that. 4. Channeling. One of the least generally understood processes, and yet it's universally a part of who you are. There's a program in the community called Living with Source if you're ready to begin conscious channeling. 5. Reinventing your past. We've been speaking of this in recent weeks. First, pick where you want to be at some reasonable time in the future. Then make up a new version of your past that will most easily lead to that. Then simply start practicing and start believing the new version. Make your new story your true story. 6. Finding like minds. Choosing company, creating a world, that supports the changing you. Choose to believe you can, and thereby intersect with people and things that are flowing with you in the current of life. Any process that feels good is that's worth practicing. Commit to it. Make it your own. Adapt it to fit different circumstances. Notice what's happening within it. Once again, here are the key ingredients. Releasing, letting the old story go, and letting your new story be your true story. Being aware of your feelings, developing an ever-present sense of how you feel. Being willing, committing to intervene whenever you start heading downhill. Maintaining perspective, stepping off the field and seeing the view from the stands. Practicing, choosing processes that help, adapting them, using them. As we did at the start, going to suggest you pause here and think about how you're going to make your new story your true story. Remember that the subconscious you doesn't know the truth and what's real. It only knows what you've taught it. And so creating what you want is simply teaching it a new truth. Remember also that we are with you on your journey, and we look forward now to our longer discussion and your questions.
This Hangout on Air was the introduction to our theme for the week. Our longer discussion continues now on our conference line. For those of you listening to the recording or joining us on the Hangout on Air, we encourage you to click links, click your pop-up on the recording, and find out more about us. We'd love to have you join us. And for now, we'll be moving on to our conference line for longer discussion.